to start, we want to know, is 2023 is going to be a sale disaster? Or is there an auto collapse going on or something else?
Yeah, is this auto collapse or auto control? So we've let Marie open up the show tonight. It's her birthday, so happy birthday, Marie. Now, that's the big question these days. Do we have an auto collapse on our hands? YouTube covered in auto collapse news, auto disaster news. It is definitely a disaster for a certain segment of the population, and that's the population with so-so credit, or really anyone who can't handle these huge monthly payments. But there are still buyers out there, and we do not have auto disaster or total auto collapse, because the people that are getting pushed out of the new are actually going into used vehicle purchases, keeping used vehicle prices high, making people who have good trades and good credit be able to swallow those monthly payments, because the monthly payments are huge if you don't have a trade. A new vehicle is very difficult to buy right now because of monthly payments if you do not have a trade. But with people getting pushed out of new sales and having more buyers than normal on the used side, those trade-ins are worth more, making anyone who has a nice vehicle to trade in actually able to digest those new prices. So we do not have an auto collapse, and we do not have an auto disaster on our hands right now. And I've been saying this for 2 years.
That's true.
From 1 month out of when we got released from our cages, I was saying it was back on, and within a couple months I was like, actually things are pretty good, like things are moving. And I know that when I was stuck at home, legally obliged to stay at home, I was thinking, wow, it's going to be a disaster when we go back. There are good chances this should just freeze up purchasing. People were forced these lower or really essentially no revenues for months, and I really expected total disaster. But I'm in the front lines, I live it, and I can tell you right off, I've been telling you, it's good time. Don't listen to the what's out there. It's a good time to buy, and boy did we ever miss some amazing buying opportunities. But there are still ways to get a deal, and we got to do it while we still can, because I think it's not about auto collapse, it's about auto control. That's the problem with the market these days. And it's not just the market, it's going to be, unfortunately, probably starting up in 5 or 10 years, we're going to start seeing more and more control in our lives. So that's for a different topic a little later on in the show. But today what we're going to be covering is we're going to be talking about what's scheduling at Ford. So what's scheduling at Ford this week? Don't be mistaken, that doesn't mean what is getting built. But Marie's going to ask the questions tonight, so I clarify and make things really clear and easy for you all to make sure you know what's getting scheduled, what's the difference with getting built, and what's going down at Ford, what's going down with electric vehicles, and, well, we'll talk about what I bought again. So Marie's going to have some questions about that. She'll keep us on topic. We're in for
again is the right word.
So let's cover the facts, the actual facts. We're all allowed to interpret the facts our own way, but unfortunately too many just don't deal with the actual facts. They just want to have an opinion. An opinion is great if it's based on facts, but if you have an opinion and they're not based on facts, well, we get that a lot. Just recently I was talking about recalls and saying that when a company has a lot of voluntary recalls, that's actually a really good thing. And I said that almost the vast majority of Ford's recalls are voluntary because they want you to have a good product. And then someone was telling me that I don't know anything, I don't know what I'm talking about whatsoever, that I should check with the National Transportation Safety Board. So they threw out the letters thinking, hey, that'll win an argument. And unfortunately, they didn't check the data themselves. And I had Andy Ackerman actually stick up for us here on the channel and said, actually, these are the actual stats and facts. Something along the lines of, in the last 10 years of the 87 million total recalls, 83 of them were voluntary. So yeah, let's get this show on the road. Let's talk about facts, and then we get to all have our own opinion on those facts, and I'll cover quickly my opinion. But we've got new vehicle sales volume forecast is actually the forecast for 2023. It's set to grow by 5.7%. This is from Cox Automotive, a fantastic source for facts. You want to read automobile facts, check out Cox Automotive. So they've got a great forecast. They're saying 2023 is going to be a pretty decent year with growth at 5.7% is what they're expecting. Originally, they're looking at 14.1 million vehicles getting sold, and now they're talking about 15 million. New vehicle inventory levels are significantly improved from Q1 2022, so quarter one. That's the first, 3 months of the year, and that information has been interpreted by a lot of channels as, wow, we're going to see a lot of inventory. Inventory is going to go up, like when we see, inventory has gone up 70%. Well, 70% is a big number, and it can lead many to conclude that, oh boy, inventories are bigger than they ever have been. You should expect huge rebates. And we're going to talk about huge rebates. I actually saw some huge rebates this weekend. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll want your input. So please keep watching. I need all of your input on this whole huge rebates talk, and also a bit of direction for the show. General Motors is actually doing really, really well. They're expected to finish, quarter one actually did just finish, but it's the third. And I'm waiting for official numbers, but they're expected to finish as the top seller. Tesla leads the luxury market, and with their price drops, anyone who had a Tesla must be really frustrated that they just lost a ton of value on their trade-in. However, Tesla's loving it. They sold a whole lot of vehicles, a huge increase, and they're number one when it comes to luxury right now. And they had some huge increases.
It's the old client will take the fall.
Yep, and I know, one thing that made you really happy when you owned your Lincoln for 1 year, you had a Lincoln MKC. I fixed, I did some videos on how to take care of your vehicle, make it look great. I did some ceramic coating. I touched in all the little paint chips.
Yeah, you did a great job.
I had about, maybe 7 hours of aesthetic work into that vehicle, but you sold it for $1,000 less than what you bought it for after running it for what was it?
$1,000 for using it 1 year. That's a big deal for Lincoln.
$100 a month. I feel cost of ownership at $100 a month. That was a win. So whether you're a winner or a loser in the automobile market, a lot of it comes down to depreciation. You don't want to necessarily buy the model with the biggest rebate, because while you might feel like you're the biggest winner, you're probably going to end up being the biggest loser, because biggest rebate in the automobile industry usually does mean biggest depreciation, meaning you'll feel like a loser when you go to sell it, or you'll be stuck with it. And often the vehicles that have huge rebates to entice people in, well, I've noticed over the years, those are often the ones that after a year, people finance, 84, 96 months. And after a year, they're like, I don't really like my vehicle. I hear the birds when I drive. The doors are only a few inches thick. They're not very well. The sound deadening is poor. It's the sound system sounds like that of a Ford Bronco. I kid. I love the Bronco, and we'll talk about what I ordered, what I've bought now. But I do love no model is perfect, no automobile maker is perfect. But let's get right down back into these facts. So there's higher inventory levels. I've seen this. I've done some videos walking lots, and there's going to be a lot of control going down, and we'll get to that in just a minute, because one of the big news stories as well is that fleet sales have gone tremendously way up. So there's a bit of control in what's going on. Yes, sales numbers are good, but why are they good is always a very important question to ask ourselves. That's why I keep a pen right here in my pocket, because sometimes you got to take notes when you come across a little bit of information on the side and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is significant. And fleet sales being dramatically up is very significant, people. This is a sign of a couple things, but it's not as drastic. It's not disastrous. It's not a sign. It's not guaranteed disaster. It's a sign of possible disaster. But I think a lot of control is going to keep things under wrap, and it's going to keep the automotive market moving. It's going to be moving like a locomotion.
And that's crazy at the same time, because we hear everywhere that the cost of life is getting bigger and bigger. Buying food at the grocery store, it costs a lot and people won't afford it, but the cars they sell like
they sell like hotcakes, and it's wild because
special.
you know, in the States we're looking at an average price of, it's in the $700 per month mark. It's right around $750 per month. The average US automobile sale monthly payment going down these days, and that's wild. That is way up. I do know how people are affording this. It's pushing a lot of people out of the market, keeping the used market hot with high trade-in values, making it so that people who have nice trade-ins, that's how they can afford those new vehicles. You know, if you think an F-150 with no trade-in, in Canadian dollars, it's pretty easy to spend, you know, $1,200-$1,300 per month just to get a nicely loaded F-150, like a Sport 302, or let's say a Tremor. My absolute favorite model is the F-150 Tremor, but it is a good amount of money, but it's affordable. Which this isn't. Sorry, that's not affordable. That's fantastic, though.
That looks good.
You're like, that's affordable. Let's buy it. But there were some deals here when I was going through an RV show. We'll talk about that because there are deals to be had on the market. There are ways to get deals, and we'll talk about that. That's going to be episode, what is that? Which episode will that be in tonight's live?
I'm not sure which one you will talk about that.
Under deals. How to get the right deal.
Yeah, it will be the episode 3.
Episode 3. Okay. So we'll cover that in a bit, this whole auto show. But sorry, I don't seem to have my Tremor photos here on me. But yeah, the Tremor is an absolute deal. But it's like about $1,300 Canadian. But it's which is a lot. It's like $600 every 2 weeks, which only seems like $1,200, but it's actually more around the $1,300 and something mark. How are people affording these? Well, if you have an F-150 trade-in, let's say a 2018 or a 2019, there's good chances you're getting a lot of positive equity. Positive equity is one of the big keys to being able to trade right now and being able to have a decent deal, because it helps offset the interest rates. But interest rates have gone down, and we're going to be talking about that as well, because that's another tool for control, for controlling the automobile market, for controlling inventories, for controlling sales volume. You work with the rebates and you work with the interest rates, and there's a lot of news. Some interest rates have gone up on some of your favorite Ford models, and some interest rates have gone down, and I suspect are going to continue to go down, but it's already started. I predicted last month, early March or late February, I was saying that I was expecting interest rates start coming down in about 2 or 3 months. It's already started. So we'll cover that in just a moment, because some of your favorite models might be a good deal right now, but I do think it's going to continue to be a good deal from what I'm seeing. For sales to continue, monthly payments need to come down a little bit more to get people in who maybe don't have positive equity on their trade. Positive equity is when your vehicle is worth more, the trade-in value or the sale value, whether you sell it yourself or trade in it, is higher than what you owe. And negative equity, well, unfortunately, negative equity is that thing you really want to avoid. If you've got negative equity, well, the vehicle's worth less than what you owe. And you definitely don't want to be putting that on an 8% loan, because right now, the average new vehicle interest rate is just about 9%.
Ouch.
That's a lot, folks. And used, it's playing in the 9% as well. Now, some companies are offering better interest rates to entice customers. And it's not just one manufacturer doing it on all their vehicles. It all depends on what kind of inventory they have on that vehicle, whether they really want to build up inventory, less of a good deal, or unload inventory, a better deal. a lot of manufacturers are going to be playing with interest rates, because when you play with rebates, it hurts the trade-in values.
And that's crazy because I remember like 5 years ago when somebody had a 4.99 interest rate on a car, we're like, oh, that's a lot, because a lot of car was at 1.99 or 0.99.
It's a great point. Yeah, you're
Just
doing the
4 or
financing.
5 years ago, yeah.
Marie was a financial F&I.
Yeah, Toyota.
Yeah, so commercial director, sometimes they call them. But the average loan rate for a new vehicle is now going towards 9%, and the average prices are above $47,000 US. So really expensive here. But Q1, a lot of automakers delivered record sales just the same. How are they doing that? Great trade-in values. That's how. Positive equity. Don't trade, folks, if you've got negative equity. That's my big advice, especially unless it's 0% and you're like, oh, well, I've got a little bit of negative equity amount to refinance onto my new loan or lease. Not so bad when you're at 0%. Pretty horrendous if you're going to be at 9%. Now, new vehicle inventory is up about 70% year over year. So this March versus last March, 70% over. And that's what was getting a lot of channels to say that this is an automobile collapse. It's a total disaster. And, well, they've been saying this. Generally, a lot of channels have been saying this for basically 2 years. It's been this wait 1, 2, or 3 months, and you're going to see incredible deals. And we did miss incredible deals. We missed incredible deals, but there's still a way to get a good deal, and there's a good way to make sure you actually get delivered your vehicle if you order it. And I'm going to be physically showing you how to confirm your order at Ford, and for non-Ford people, how to make sure that when your vehicle gets in, you get the price. You need to be negotiating your vehicles before your order goes in, not when it actually does come in. So, hey, Ridgeview, Francis, R. Pavel, thank you guys very much for being in the show, and everyone else who's in the chat. I can't take the time to say everyone's name, but thank you so much for being here in the chat, here for the live. And I love it, R. Pavel, you're giving like hands-on information about credit union, and that's fantastic help. Also, I know I've got a lot of respect for the people over at Car Edge. Now, Car Edge, they've got a website. You want to check out the website because they can help hook you up with a creditor that's going to give you a good rate. So I really love what Car Edge has done. They're automobile enthusiasts. They love covering the news, and they've put a whole website, created a whole website to make sure that people get good deals. So these high prices, these high monthlies are pushing out buyers. A lot of people with, shaky credit or just average credit, and people who don't have trade. So that's the big news right there. Now, there's still a few big topics to cover. Fleet sales in January were up 58% year over year. February, they're up 48%. And in March, we're going to be looking at about an increase of 50% more vehicles. Fleet sales means the big companies, when they're buying, all sorts of transits or all sorts of a mining company, they'll buy, maybe 150 F-150s or maybe 1,500 F-150s. Those are fleet sales. And here's the thing. Fleet sales, it's a tool for controlling inventory and prices. So GM actually closed down their shop for a couple of weeks to make sure that their inventories didn't get too high because they don't want to give rebates. Now, a lot of people have seen this increase of a lot of specialists on YouTube are saying, oh, well, there's all these vehicles going to fleets. It means the new market is dead. It's done. It's over. No, I'd say that for 2021 and 2022, a lot of companies were starved for vehicles. Companies were not getting the vehicles they normally got. And most manufacturers focused on their actual customers, their people customers, not their companies. So if a company that would normally get, order up every year consistently 1,000 vehicles, well, they might have only gotten, not might have, a lot of them got only, a fifth or an eighth of what they normally would. Well, those were in the worst cases, but a lot of companies were seeing at least half as many vehicles as they would normally get because manufacturers were focusing on consumers. Now, to ensure that inventories don't get too high, Well, they're sending these vehicles over to the fleet side, which they're behind in delivering vehicles to. They need to also meet demand there. But it is a tool to help, when prices are high and interest rates are high and monthly payments are also very high. Well, that actually gives the automakers a chance to get inventory. They do want inventory. They know how angry and upset we were when dealers had no vehicles, and they are using different tools of control to make sure that there is inventory present. They don't want too much inventory either, because that's not good for the bottom line, for the dollar. Now,
you always need a good balance.
you always need a good balance, but they're going to find out soon if they keep these monthly prices as high as they have been. They're going to push too many people out of the market, too many people from the new market into the used market. We're walking on thin ice, folks. We could go into an auto collapse, but with all the mechanisms of control, I highly doubt we will go into an auto collapse. They're going to use every tool in their tool belt to keep things under control and make sure that there's enough people that can actually afford these new vehicles. They need people driving these new vehicles. Remember, we're on technological breakthrough, really beneficial for companies. I'm not a fan of this whole idea of autonomous driving because I'm very much not for the idea of autonomous rides. I think the future right now they need us because we're testing all that autonomous technology in the vehicles. They need actual human drivers putting on, hundreds of millions of miles on the vehicles so that they have so much data that they can make these vehicles so unbelievably safe that they can actually just put us into a system where we don't have very much vehicle ownership. Companies buy the vehicles and then they, sell us rides. That's unfortunately a very potential, very scary future, a very controlled future. So I guess control is sort of a bit of a theme word here on the show tonight, because I do see more control going into our auto purchases. Big gas guzzlers like this one. Now, this doesn't take nearly as much gas as a TRX. I know someone who bought a TRX. He actually bought 3 of them, and he was talking about the TRX, and he actually also bought a Tremor because he said his TRX is just, and he has 3 of them. So he has money, but it just bothers him too much to really drive it anywhere as a vehicle of transportation. He bought it as a vehicle for fun, and he owns a company, so this isn't just 3 of his personal vehicles. So companies are going to need to have us buying less of these because they need to get to 50 miles per gallon fleet average. Otherwise, they're going to get a lot of penalties, fines from the governments. So they need us to want less of these and more Ford Mavericks. But anyways, you're loving your Ford Maverick, aren't you?
A lot. I really have fun time driving this car.
Now,
really love the hybrid.
Speaking of fun driving cars, Tesla, they're up 40%. They are fun vehicles to drive when you actually drive them because they actually have a really good, pretty good system for driving itself. I had a friend, he was in a test drive. Well, his friend had a Tesla, and his friend was forcing him to let the vehicle just do everything. Because in a Tesla, you can actually, put in your destination when you get in the vehicle, and it's just gonna take you there. So they're more ahead on, they're more primed and ready to do this whole autonomous ride sharing, pay for your ride but don't own your vehicle. Nasty future that I'd love to avoid. I'm not a fan of the idea of having a very controlled future with no more paper money and all this digital currency, because digital currency is going to be digital control, because it'll be very easy. This is already happening in China. You jaywalk, for example, and they just take money off your digital currency account. When you have paper money, it's pretty hard for someone to come take your money. When you're on digital currency, it's pretty easy to say, for example, well, you ate too many steaks this year, Johnny. I like to eat steak generally. If it's my steak week, I eat steak pretty much every day that week. And then I'll eat another meat the other week. But I have entire weeks where I eat steaks a stake every day. And I don't look forward to a future where I might get a carbon tax and taxed right off my digital currency account at a very high price because I did something that's, bad and wrong. Eating a delicious grilled steak on my Napoleon barbecue. Yeah.
No, we cannot arrive there.
And we're almost certainly going to arrive there. But the auto market is also controlled. There's multiple tools for controlling what's going on. So that's why I don't think there'll be a collapse. There's just far too many tools for controlling what's going on. It's just a matter of, will automakers use them quickly enough to avoid disaster? Ford has already lowered interest rates on the vehicles that they're starting to have inventory of, but very, very pretty smart of them. The vehicles they don't have enough, well, those interest rates have gone up. Like a Bronco. Bronco interest rate this month is higher than it was last month, and it might even be higher next month. Why? Because they don't have Broncos. They're not in a hurry to get them off the lots. There aren't any on the lots. But when there are a bunch on the lots, it's because dealers are asking way more for them, and putting the interest rate higher will actually help bring those overinflated, marked up prices on those Broncos down, because someone that goes in, if you hide $5,000 on the price of a Bronco, some people will just be like, so what's the monthly come out to? Yeah, I love it. I'll pay that. But if you're at, let's say 2-3 months down the road, you're at 9% interest. Well, you might say, well, no, that monthly doesn't make sense. What's going on here? And if enough people say that, the dealer's gonna be like, wow, we can't just continue to pay interest on this, $60,000, $70,000 Bronco. We need to get it. We need to move it. So let's put it at the correct price. And if there was a collapse, well, then they'll be selling them for less than the internet price. But you should always check the internet, always verify on your online manufacturer's builder what the actual price of that vehicle is supposed to be. So Tesla's up 40%. They'll drive you home if you need a vehicle that drives for you. But I don't know how many people on this channel are into, I think we all like driving our vehicles. There's a time for the technology assist though, when you've had too much beer at the bar, I guess. That'll never be legal. So, fleet sales are up 23% from what they were in 2022, but they're considerably down in 2022. Yeah, certain huge companies got almost all the transit, and regular sized companies didn't get any transits, but now they've got to get transits and F-150s and Silverados to all sorts of companies, not just the big players, but it was mostly the big players that got, you could say, fed during the last 2 years. Now let's go over and check what's going on with actually the stats here. So we've got change from 2022. General Motors, we're talking about an auto collapse, but how is it that General Motors, compared to 2022, have an increase in sales? Ford, increase in sales. Toyota, they're down because for whatever reason, some Toyota dealerships have next to no vehicles still. Some Toyota dealerships having a lot of trouble getting inventory. So they're not getting enough inventory there, so sales are down. Hyundai, Kia, down. So who are the people getting the most affected by these price increases, or the manufacturers, I could say? Well, the people are people with, kind of shaky, okay, average credit or below average credit, really. So you see Hyundai and Kia, who have always been specialists at providing cheap, inexpensive cars, and I do mean cheap, both in price. And, they're not bad cars, but they're not a Cadillac or a Lincoln. They're not these, super sound deadened vehicles with incredible handling or whatever it may be. It's not a BMW. It's not a Mercedes. It's a different market. You've got Stellantis down. They've traditionally also drawn in people with, maybe not the same credit as people walking into Toyota. Honda up. Nissan and Mitsubishi up. Tesla up. Volkswagen break even. Subaru break even. Mazda slightly up. BMW slightly down, even though there's deals at BMW right now. Daimler down. Geely, who cares? But the same. Tata, nope, don't want them in the market either. And Rivian. Rivian is up. Lucid is break even. Hopefully Lucid can start building and getting out more vehicles. Really cool product. But pretty much for the super wealthy. So that's what's going on with the automobile market right now. Now, before we get into the next topic, I just want to talk about car fires. So car fires, there's this whole, if you are looking for a good deal, you're not going to get that, great deal when you're shopping an electric vehicle. There's two ways to shop. You can either shop a rebate or shop a vehicle. And I recommend all of you shop the vehicle, which means test them out, see what you love, drive them, and ask yourself before even thinking about price, do I like this vehicle? If it's no, who cares how good the price is, unless you're really stuck. And if it's, yes, I like how this vehicle drives, well then only compare pricing on the vehicles you actually enjoy driving. So electric vehicles, it's pretty much fair pricing for everyone, generally across all the electric vehicle manufacturers. When there's a model that's electric, it's getting sold at the correct price. Except a story I heard about an electric first in my region, I think the first electric GM might be selling for a ridiculous sum. But let's get to the facts on electric vehicles. It's always important to deal with data. And I have heard before, I wouldn't buy an electric vehicle because of fires. I've originally had that thought cross my mind many times. And then I went and checked out the data. Now, according to both major company, it's an insurance company that was reviewing the data from the National Safety Transportation Board. And they compiled the data, and for every 100,000 vehicles on the road that are electric, 25 take fire. 25 vehicles.
Not that much.
Out of 100,000. Gasoline powered, how many take fire? About 1,500 and just about 30 vehicles to do a little rounding game. It's 50 times more. 50 times more gasoline vehicles catch fire. And I've heard this so many times on the internet. I've heard it in the comments on my channel. This whole, but there's more electric vehicles on the road. No, this is per 100,000 vehicles. Per 100,000 vehicles, it's a ratio. So the ratio truly is that 50 times more gasoline vehicles catch fire than electric. So electric, so far, very, very safe. Burning electric vehicles. Now, when they do catch fire, let's say out of 100,000 vehicles on the road, 25 electric vehicles catch fire. When they do catch fire, the fire is so bad, it's like 10 fires in one. But that's still 250, you could say, compared to 1,500. So 1,530 gasoline vehicles catch fire for every 100,000 that are on the road. So wildness. We need to stop talking about electric vehicles and fires. It's a silly story because there absolutely is no story. The story really is that there's no story, and people have made such a big deal out of it. Now, just covering, I'm going to let you actually get to the next question because that concludes episode 1.
Good. We have a few questions related to that. First, I want to say thank you for the birthday wishes. So I saw Bob Masters comment, Ridgeview, Raf in Virginia, and Francis Arrigo. So thank you, guys. And we have Ford Video guy who was asking, hi Tim, was asking, Johnny, is that lemonade? Because we saw you drink tonight.
Yes, I'm off the alcohol. Does that mean I'm on the wagon or off the wagon? Wagon rides, are they fun? When you drink, I guess it's fun. Anyways, I don't know whether I'm
hydrated because it's water and
it's
citrus.
It's lemon water, so I don't know whether that means I'm on the wagon or I'm off the wagon. But I guess probably goes back to the days when mostly women were actually protesting against alcohol because of the effects it was having on the men. And I believe they were protesting usually from wagons. So I guess maybe that means I'm on the wagon. If we look at it from a historical standpoint, I'd say probably the expression comes from there, we'll say for tonight, I'm on the wagon. So yeah.
Okay, now I'll start with Bronco question. We have Orlando OBX who asked at the beginning of the show, how long are the Bronco order banks going to be open?
Great question.
And you said few days and now it's a week, I guess, so we count it in a week.
Oh, what's this? What is this? Okay. It's got a nice little Bronco picture in the background. Yes, Ford, I do realize there's a lot of demand on the Bronco. I wasn't born yesterday, Ford. Okay, so order banks for the Bronco. How long are they going to be open for? Probably not that long in the States, and probably a really long time in Canada, because I have an acquaintance of mine who actually watches the channel. He ordered a Bronco with me in, I believe it was February, maybe late January. No, it was right around my birthday, I remember. Okay, so in February, ordered a Bronco. It's supposed to be closed, right? And we're not supposed to be able to build a base Bronco. Well, last Monday, I went into the in Ford system. It said that they hadn't been given a date yet, a build date. So I spent a couple hours picking out a new Bronco. We went from a base to a Big Ben, put in my modified confirmed order, which we'll show how to do later on. And yeah, it was denied. And the reason it was denied is because the WebDo system was like, yeah, no, you can't change your current order. And I'm like, what order? I haven't been scheduled. And it was like, yeah, you have been scheduled. And then I go back into InFord, and then by the end of the week, InFord was like, yeah, we've had you scheduled since the 13th. And it's like, really? Since March 13th? I remember that week, the scheduling note said no base models. So that's funny. And March 13th, wait, the order banks weren't even open. The order banks were closed. So the order banks were clearly still open in Canada because Canada hadn't sold out its allocation. So I'll try to summarize this long answer really. Order banks for Broncos probably aren't going to be open for very long. Most dealerships, I think a lot of dealerships have probably already sold out. But I still think that you can probably find dealerships that haven't sold out their allocations for the entire year. And if you're in Canada, I doubt there's any dealership that has sold out their entire Bronco allocations for the year. Certainly not in Quebec. Maybe there are different parts in the country where, let's say around the Rockies, where Broncos might just sell at a much higher rate than they do here. Broncos are popular here, but they're expensive machines, so they're not flying off like, 2 for $1 hot dogs.
And we have another good question from GM Genoa. Why did the Ford not build any base Bronco this round of order banks with the economy the way it is? So that's a good question.
That's a really good question. It probably has to do a lot with costs, because for them building, whether they build a base Bronco or a Wild Track, okay, well, Wild Track has a lot of expensive parts from, let's say, Fox and various companies. So yes, it does cost them probably a good amount more to build that. But let's say the difference between a base model and an Outer Banks or a Black Diamond or a Big Ben or even a Badlands, probably not a huge difference on cost. Like the Badlands, okay, you've got your electronic stabilizer bar disconnect to pay for, and you've got the extra cost for the tires, a little extra cost for the LED lights, but not a huge difference with the base. So yeah, it would definitely help us out, but it definitely would not help them out. And new vehicles, who, from earlier in the show, episode 1, who's getting pushed out of new vehicle purchasing? People with, a little with less money, less net income, or, okay, average credit. So building less base models, well, unfortunately, the same people were going to get pushed out of those, out of the market. So basically, the vehicles that they are going to produce, prices are going up, and they're serving different clientele. I know because I see it. I can tell you that there's people who currently have F-150s who are trading them for Ford Mavericks or Ford Rangers.
Yeah,
and that's
just make a switch.
Sometimes instead of going into the used, people will want to stay in the new vehicle market, but will trade for less costly of a vehicle.
Perfect. And we have 2 Maverick comments. So we'll start with the celebration. Coastal Living NC5 says, my Maverick should be getting on a train this week. Congratulations.
Yeah, fantastic. That's great.
Yeah,
you're gonna love
only
it.
few days you will have it. Sorry, the mic just fell off the table.
Kind of need that Mac. The dog Lily is pulling on things. We've separated Winston's upstairs, 2 floors above us, off on his own so that there'd be less havoc tonight. So sorry, we're doing our best, folks.
She don't know what to do with her life. And Tien Baba says he's enjoying my reviews on my hybrid since he has his Maverick too. So,
and Marie has another one coming out tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Right before Tim's show, Ford Video Guy. So we'll make sure we make it to that and Dave's show tonight at 9 p.m.
So he said we are learning together. So yeah, in few days or a week we'll come with more news about the famous L button.
Yeah.
So I will read on that like I promised you, and I will come back with the other information.
All right. So we're gonna continue.
Yeah.
So we're gonna continue now. Interest rates have gone up and down depending on inventory. So this is all a game of control. You want to actually be able to have some vehicles to display, to test drive, to show. So the vehicles that there's very few of, like this one, interest rates went up. But let's say a 22 Mustang, interest went down just from last month by 0.5%. Mustang Mach 1, interest, they don't have any. Some dealerships have them because they just don't have the region for them, and it'd be great to see a redistribution. Ford, however, for now, a lot of dealerships are desperate for Mustang Mach 1s, and the interest went up 0.5%. Now the Mustang Mach E, also a vehicle that could use some serious redistribution, far more so actually than the Mustang Mach 1, but the Mustang Mach E, easily to confuse. Great job with the naming. It's such a great job that Corvette you're gonna have SUV Corvettes coming out almost certainly in the future, because Corvette said, wow, Ford did such a great job calling it the Mustang Mach 1. Let's also come out with a Corvette electric SUV. So the Mach E for 2022 models, for those that are in regions where instead of redistributing them and paying for transport, well, Ford's actually thrown a $3,000 rebate on the Mach E GT. So Mach E GT, great deal on a 2022 considering today's market. $3,000 also on the all-wheel drive premium, and this is Canadian, so maybe in the United States it'll be a little different with the pricing, but it goes to show that there are deals to be had. The premium rear-wheel drive, $1,500, $3,000 on a California Route 1. All-wheel drive, obviously, 0 on the Select. Those are highly sought after, because in a lot of regions, for example, in Canada, a lot of the Mach-Es don't get the tax rebates, but they do get them on the Select. Now, honey, I'm going to have to ask you, the remaining kid is about to knock over the light stand, so do you mind just picking her up and I'll continue with the news?
She just got out. She was stuck under it.
Still think it would be best to hold on to her. So we've got the Bronco 2022. Interest rate is up. Why? Well, dealers that are holding on to these with markups, you make the interest go up, the monthly goes up, more people will say no, hopefully enough people will say no that the dealer will get tired of paying interest on these vehicles and actually bring down the interest rate. You've got the Bronco Sport. Now there's a lot of them on the yards, and interest rates went down 2%, so from 3.99% down to 1.99%. So it goes to show that these are elements of control to help control inventory, but when inventory is up, yes, we are more likely to see a better deal. I don't hope and pray for big rebates, because that just absolutely kills trade-in values. I really hope that they continue to do a formula. What I predict will be, early 24, you've got 24 models on the lot. They're going to have much higher interest rates than they will at, let's say, December 2024. Well, that 2024 model with the 2025s coming in are going to see lower interest rates. So I really hope that's going to be the future. Now, the 2023 Mustang Mach-E, 1% less interest. Excuse me. Edge 2023, depending on the model, 1 to 2.5% less interest. So I'm not going to continue going through every single other model, but what's really nice about all that is we've got some deals, and you've got to spot them, and you've got to know how to ensure your deal. So we're not far from concluding the show with talking about what we ordered and how to confirm what you ordered. Because really, Ranger, the interest rate went up. Why did the interest rate go up on the Ranger? Because they're not producing very many. So they'd rather people get an F-150 instead, or an Explorer, or something else, because they don't have very many. They're building far fewer of them so that they can build more Broncos for us. So Ford listened to us. They understood we don't want the same more Rangers on dealer lots that we've seen since, in Europe back in 2015. It came to our market in 2019, but we're tired of seeing that Ranger. So give us our Broncos instead. So it's great. They've played around with what they build there.